All right, welcome everyone. I feel like I'm kicking off the show here for a lot of people. Thank you all for being here bright and early on a Monday morning, and for everyone who traveled in over the weekend, thank you for that. My name's Nick Brackney. I am responsible for product marketing for Project Alpine, which we'll be talking about pretty quickly here. It's the first section of this presentation. I spent 12 years in and around cloud working in Seattle with a lot of different companies. So I have a very generalist perspective of the cloud. So this presentation is really all about bringing your favorite Dell enterprise capabilities to AWS. And so what's really important here is the relationship and the partnership between us at Dell and AWS. And Dell has over $100 billion in revenue, and we're trusted in storage and data protection space. And what's really exciting now is taking all of that great storage IP and data protection IP that we have, all that software, and making it now available in the public cloud and having consistent and proven solutions, things that people use in their data center that they trust with their production workloads, now running up in the public cloud. And with this, as part of our mentality as an enterprise company, we really have a strong focus on security and data protection. And we realize it's very important because data is the lifeline for organizations. It's one of your most valuable assets. And so, what does it mean partnering with AWS? Well, first off, it's about making our industry-leading solutions available in the marketplace so that organizations can purchase it very simply, easily, and use their cloud credits for some of that. It's also about investing in that AWS partnership, making sure that we have those connections with AWS. We have a good relationship with them. And finally, it's really about joining the ISV Accelerate program and really earning competency in that space. And so, if we back up and we look at what's Dell's strategy with cloud, how are we thinking about cloud? Well, Apex is really the umbrella for how we're thinking about cloud. And what we're really focusing on here are three things. Really, it's about simplifying the journey for our customers, making sure it's easy for them to use the cloud, that there's choice, there's consistency across their environments, and that they can put the workloads in the place where it makes the most sense. It's about agility, making sure that we're adaptable and that we're providing technologies that help our customers and provide the flexibility for them to move with the speed of business. And it's also about being predictable. A lot of enterprise organizations, they have a low bar of appetite for things breaking. It needs to be reliable, and so that's one of our big things. And then finally, it's about control. So, security is always top of mind whenever anyone thinks about cloud. And what we're really striving to do is bring secure solutions to the market, make sure that we have things that protect people in the cloud, outside the cloud, providing governance and allowing people to really think through where they put their data. Is it compliant? Is it going to be safe? And is it going to be backed up? And finally, performance. We're bringing some really interesting things to the public cloud that offer some of that incredible mission-critical speed and performance that people are used to on-prem. So as part of this presentation, I'm going to talk about three things today. First is the software-defined advanced data services. This is what we're referring to as Project Alpine. So what this is it's taking our storage software and it's putting it up in the public cloud. Cyber-resilient cloud data protection. So this is one of the big areas that we're already very successful at in public cloud today, is providing data and backup solutions. And finally, simplified and hybrid developer solutions. We want to make sure that we're providing developers with the tools they need on-prem and in the cloud. So software-defined advanced data services. I was talking a little bit about Project Alpine. We announced this earlier in the year. And effectively, the first one out of the gate is PowerFlex. But what the whole vision of this is to take our storage IP that's from the data center world that's bundled today on our appliances, extract it from the appliance, software-defined, and then being able to put it up in the public cloud as a virtual appliance. And what's great about this is that all of the software that customers know and love today, if it's PowerFlex, PowerScale, that they're going to be able to take advantage of that technology in a new environment. And this is something we hear a lot about from our customers. There's been a lot of demand for this, and so that's where we're heading. This will provide a consistent experience. It makes it easier for people to do lift and shift migrations. It makes it easier for certain use cases like dev test, right? Where maybe I want to throw it up in Amazon, I want to test it, throw 1,000 cores at it and smash it to pieces, and then once I know it's working good, put it back down on-prem in production if that's the way my environment is set up. It's also going to help streamline access to clouds, to many clouds. And ultimately, what is this all about? It's about bringing data and your applications to clouds, and it's about empowering organizations to be able to do business wherever they see fit. So what's unique about PowerFlex? Well, first off, the reason why it was the first one we went with was it was already software defined. So it was a very low bar that was necessary for us to actually get it working in a public cloud. We actually didn't even have to change a single line of code for this. All we had to do was figure out how to deploy it. So it's deployed on compute instances. You have options with either EC2 or EBS. So the way that works is when you're thinking about it, do I need to have it be persistent, the data, or am I okay with it being non-persistent? What does that mean? That means if I turn off the computer, does the data go away or not? And so what this does is it gives us a lot of flexibility for different use cases. So I mentioned dev test. There, I probably don't really care if it goes away, right? I'm just throwing it up there to test, and I'm going to toss it. Some analytics workloads are kind of like that too, where I'm just going to run some research on it and get the answer, and then okay, I can dump it. Certain industry vertical workloads like media and entertainment, maybe I just need to render something, and then I'm going to pull down the finished file. But for organizations that have a workload they want to keep in the cloud for a longer period of time, that's when they would use EBS on the back end. And so what that will allow you to do then is for your databases or maybe your applications that you're going to be running, you have a persistent storage on the back end. What's really exciting about PowerFlex is the scale of massive scale it can reach, and then also the performance it can deliver. So it scales linearly by federating instances. No performance limitations there, and then you choose your instance configuration based on the use case, like I just mentioned, whether it's EBS or EC2. And finally, this is what's really kind of unique with PowerFlex, is that we're making it available in a way that has an interesting architecture where if you choose to take advantage of it, you can actually put it across multiple availability zones. And why would someone want to do this? Well, let's say my developer makes a mistake in availability zone 1. That could create an issue with performance there. If I'm running in a second availability zone, I have more resiliency. So it's really for people who are really concerned about mission critical workloads, and they want to make sure that they don't have a single point of failure. And we can take it to an even higher level, where here what we've done is we have 2 different clusters running in different availability zones, and then we're doing asynchronous replication across. So this is for people who really can't ever have something go down. So it's a bit of a certain use cases that you really can't go down. And looking at PowerFlex Cloud Storage, what are the highlights of this product? Why is it important? Why would I use a third-party solution versus a native solution? Well, I mentioned a little bit here the extreme performance and scalability, meeting mission-critical SLAs effortlessly. That kind of scale is really staggering. I talked a little bit about the multi-availability zone resilience, but in addition to that, there's also rapid rebuild, which is if I lose a node in the cluster, the more nodes I have, the faster it recovers. So as I scale out, as I get bigger, it actually is making me more resilient. It's making it faster for me to recover. And then there's a lot of rich automation orchestration we've built into the product, right? We understand that there's a lot of developers out there. They're making the decisions now, and they need to have infrastructure available as code. Right? And so it's really about automation, saving them time so they can get back to doing what they do best, which is innovating. And we've invested heavily in security, compliance, data protection. And this is really important to us, right? We hear this from our customers. It's one of the biggest challenges that people face when they think about cloud. So I'm going to do a demo, but I'm going to do it at the end because, and it's going to be just how to deploy it. The reason is I have to do it on a different laptop, and it'll just take me too long to switch over, so I don't want to break the flow here. Talking about data protection, though, this is probably one of the first entrants to Dell's cloud vision and what we've been able to accomplish for most organizations. We're already protecting over 14.2 exabytes of data. That's incredible. That's a ton of data that we're protecting. It's actually across all clouds, but then we also have a lot of innovation here. We've invested heavily in patents. I was on a call the other day with some Amazon folks, and we were talking about government sector, and some of our data protection solutions actually met some of their stringent requirements, and that was a unique capability that was sold about the product to that customer. And we're seeing explosive growth. And the thing here is one that's a testament to the product itself, but it's also a testament to what people are experiencing, which is rapid proliferation of storage in the cloud, right? And one of the things I always talk about when I sit down and I talk to customers is, in the shared responsibility model, you're responsible for the data, right? It's not the IaaS vendor that's responsible for it, it's the customer. And so one of the things I try to remind people is that availability zones are for resiliency, they are not backup. Which means if you get hit by ransomware in one of your availability zones, it's going to replicate across in about 90 milliseconds. So it's always important to have a backup solution in addition to your running in multiple availability zones. So our data protection solution, it's available in the marketplace today. It's software as a service, obviously. And then we've automated the protection and given you some ability to automate it with REST APIs. And really, this is a full-fledged solution. It's available for all of your different use cases, long-term retention, disaster recovery, backup to cloud, in-cloud backup for those applications that live in the cloud, and cyber recovery. So we really are meeting all of the use cases here, or a ton of use cases with this solution. And so kind of what does that look like? First we have an optimized data mover. So data domain boost. It's an efficient data mover technology, increasing performance by up to 50%. It removes the need to use a legacy filer. You can just use object. And so here we have it, just virtual edition, just pointing to S3 and using S3 as the backup. You can store up to 5 petabytes of logical capacity per virtual instance. And it's delivering an industry-leading TCO through deduplication. I think it's 20x is the deduplication rate there. It works great for on-prem, and it also works for in-cloud. So this is one solution to fit both of those needs. And of course, it's available in the marketplace today. We also have our data manager from PowerProtect as well, which makes it a lot easier for you. Data owners and administrators can deploy this into AWS to protect their business-critical workloads in the cloud. It enables protection of traditional workloads, SQL, Oracle, SAP, HANA, as well as cloud-native workloads as well, and Kubernetes. And it's easy to install, so that's great. This is PowerProtect Cyber Recovery. So this is a cyber recovery vault. So this is when you're really concerned about, I have a backup, but is it secure? Is it physically isolated? Do I have it, air gap, that kind of thing. So it's available in the cloud, on-prem, or at a colo. If you run it out of the colo, that adds a secondary layer of protection because it's not in the same environment. And when it becomes time to activate it, when you have to do a rebuild, you're able to securely access that file and then rebuild off of it. So simplified and hybrid developer solutions. This is where we get into, the world that we saw with cloud. Everything has changed. So traditional models, you have legacy waterfall. It's monolithic apps. They're brittle. They're not made for an environment that isn't fault tolerant, right? It's basically you're going to struggle with putting these things up into clouds and maintain both your uptime and serviceability, as well as taking advantage of cloud economics. So this is, your traditional lift and shift. It's not going to work as well as something that's designed specifically for the cloud. So cloud native, we have, our dev and IT operations are merged, right? We have now the ability for the developers to take a more active role in deciding what the infrastructure is. Everything is done, infrastructure as code, makes it a lot easier, and you're really starting to build on microservices. You're starting to compartmentalize the application so that it's able to be more efficient. And this is something for Dell. When we're building all this mission critical infrastructure, this is a newer area for us, and this is where we're starting to build and design solutions that meet these needs. So the Dell solution for containerized workloads, first off, is we looked at this and we said we have to deliver choice, right? We have to be available in the way that organizations need. We have to really emphasize that flexibility. And so Amazon EKS is obviously one of the big areas. Everyone on Amazon is really hot on that. But we also wanted to be also support the open community as well with OpenShift and SUSE Rancher. And then of course, Dell had a long relationship with VMware, so it made sense to really invest heavily in Tanzu and support that as well. But what does it mean as an infrastructure provider to be able to support this? Well, we have three ways in which we do this to offer more choice. Build your own, so you pick the compute, you pick the storage, you pick the networking stack, and you put it all together. Turnkey, which is using an HCI type platform, PowerFlex or VxRail, that sort of thing. Or we're also delivering it as a service with Apex. And so this is really where we get into reducing the management overhead, allowing organizations to take advantage of offloading that, even if it is sitting on-prem. And that was really a big part of our push with Apex is first off, is well, let's make sure that we create these environments in the data center that can approximate what people like about public cloud, right? The paying for what you use, that kind of stuff. And then we get into the data persistence and protection. And so, I just spent a little bit of time talking about how much data we protect in the cloud. It was very important that we made sure we had the right plugins to these environments that protected these cloud native workloads. We also needed the command storage interface plugins, right? We needed to make sure that our storage infrastructure could easily be accessed through these different protocols and various different management consoles. And then, we had to build the container storage modules themselves. So this allows us to deliver the right service levels and tools to support the workloads. So we look at it and, we said, hey, let's see, these platforms, these programs, that are developer ready, let's see what they are and let's explore and unpack them. And, we have a whole host of products here that we really wanted to enable. And so, with the build your own, we have things like PowerEdge servers, which are obviously, our industry leading servers. We had PowerStore, PowerMax, and PowerFlex, because we know there's various different degrees that organizations want to go to. Maybe I need a departmental type solution or a mid-market solution, which is something like PowerStore. Maybe I need the speed and the IOPS and the performance of a PowerMax, and it's a really mission critical workload. Or maybe I need the flexibility to do something that's software defined with PowerFlex and take advantage of some of those innovations. And then we get into our turnkey, and that's where we get into things like VxRail, where that's really emphasizing the VMware stack, vSphere, that kind of thing, and the being able to use the storage from VMware as well there. And then you have PowerFlex, PowerStore, and Azure Stack HCI as well. And then as a service, the Apex private and hybrid cloud, that is, really something we've seen a lot of pickup from our customers that are excited to be able to take advantage of HCI in their data center and not have to worry too much about the management. And then Apex Cloud Services with VMware Cloud. This was also another big thing. We had worked very closely with VMware, and that's a Dell managed solution as well. So when it comes to EKS Anywhere, really what we really strive to do here is create consistency between on-prem and public cloud clusters. We wanted to make sure that the data center wasn't left behind. And I think this is something that Amazon is really, to their credit, been really great about, is they've wanted to create an experience across these different environments. They want to make sure that you can take advantage of this the software in all of your environments. It's the same Kubernetes distribution deployed in Amazon EKS, so that's easy. It's that consistency story again. And you can simplify the cluster installation with default configurations of the operating system and networking. And finally, customers can leverage support agreements. This is another big part of this is, can I put my workloads on it and rely on it if Amazon is not going to support it? So this is a big thing, right, is being able to have that support for your cluster deployments and the integrated tools that they also contain. So the last area I'm going to get into is really the Dell Developer Portal and API documentation. And so this comes down to being an infrastructure company and being, moving into this world where developers are taking more advantage of these types of technologies and making sure that they can do this in their own data center. So we've stood up a portal where you can go to and get all of the API documentation for all of our workloads, all of our infrastructure as well. And it's very simple. You can go in here, you can select and filter. Am I going to do the data protection, or do I want to do my servers, etc. Once you select it, let's check out the data protection category. You see here you've got Power Protect Data Manager, and you can see they have a versioning on this as well. And so you would go in here, you would check the version, read up on it, and be able to determine if it was suitable for your usage. And then you even can look at it and see here, the AWS minimum permissions. You can explore and see what this looks like from the cloud APIs. And it's really simple to get in there and really understand and figure out what you're looking at here, and everything's at your hand. And then from there, we have a VMware example as well here. So you can see the policies are associated with Cloud Snapshot Manager here. And from there, you can just basically simplify the copy and take the command that you need from there and apply it. So all of this is available online. It's free, it's easy to use, and it's to make your life a lot easier when it comes to our management stack. I think that was it for that. Okay, and then we get to the whole picture. So when we think about this and what Dell's trying to accomplish here, we're traditionally known for the data center. And we see that there's all this storage IP, there's all of this networking, compute, and data protection IP that our customers rely on in their data center. And what's challenging is that they don't want to run two different stacks a lot of times. And so we need to make it available to them. And so this is kind of our vision of all up what it's going to look like, having the cloud and having the ground, edge data center and co-location facilities, and then being available in the public clouds as well. And making sure that all of these solutions are available and that we can deliver the outcomes that organizations need in the environments that they need. So that's a big part of the vision. And so you'll be seeing a lot more work that's being done there to make all of our stuff software defined, to make it easy to gain access to across all these different environments. So with that, I'm going to switch over to the demo. All right, so what we're going to be experiencing here. And the first thing we want to do, there's two areas that we're really investing in. One is in making things software defined, and then the other area is in the management stack and making sure that we're bringing that along and simplifying that process. But what I'm going to focus on today is just the software defined portion of it. So this was the first thing that we did. And so we go through the demo here, and this is basically for the first product, which is PowerFlex, that's moving to the cloud. And so we go into it, and the first thing is, when we go onto the marketplace, this is a slight difference for this product from our data protection products. And it's a little different than maybe what you're used to with some of the other vendors. But the first thing was, in order to be in the marketplace, in order to help retire cloud credits or cloud spend, you have to be in the marketplace. And this product, we're still early in bringing it to market, and what we want to do to make sure that organizations have the best experience, again, because we are really focused on support, and we know that large organizations have little appetite for things that are not resilient and simple, is that we've made it so that you have to engage with our sales force in order to go through this, right? So it's not on demand yet, but you would engage the sales team, and once they've been engaged, they would then share with you the AMI, the Amazon Machine Interface. Oh, hold on a second. So we send you the AMI file, and then you would go here, you go to your AMI catalog in the Amazon browser. You would then, let's get past all those, let's filter it down, let's select the filter for the PowerFlex. And so this is a deployment tool that we have, and in the near future, we will have a management stack that will handle this for us. But for now, we have a portal or a design wizard that is working with the AMI catalog here. So we go in, we would select shared with me, because this is an AMI from Dell that is shared to you. We would see here, yep, this is the version I want, this is the AMI. We'd go through, and then we can launch the instance with an AMI. And let's just name it PowerFlex AWS Product Tour. We would go into it here and say, yep, we've selected the AMI, click next. And then we get into sizing. And so this is part of what our journey was to get here is, yes, PowerFlex was software defined. We didn't have to change a single line of code, but we needed to make sure that we understood what was the underlying infrastructure that would be needed in order to deliver the performance capabilities that our customers are used to and the resiliency that they needed. And so here in this case, we selected the instance type of T2 Micro, and that worked because it had the right amount of CPU and RAM there. And we, we had to go to T2 Medium. Sorry, that was what, we needed more CPUs and more virtual memory there. So from here, you select your key pairs, to access your Amazon instances to make sure you have the credentials. Then we assign it a public IP address. And then from here, you'd want to create a security group, because obviously, everything is online, and we need to make sure that it's secured. And then from there, we get into the sizing. So you would just determine how much storage capacity you need. And in this case, let's do 30. Is it going to work? No, that's where it failed last time. All right. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I had the same problem earlier, and this is why you don't do demos live on the fly, right? But anyways, where it ends on this is that you would select your sizing, and then it would launch and it would deploy in that environment. And what's really interesting is on the back end is, let's say I choose like 1 petabyte or something crazy. What this tool is doing is it's deploying the EC2 and the EBS instances underneath it and doing all the math, and I don't have to worry about that, right? And that's really the key. That's what we're trying to do here. That's where we're trying to simplify this, because the last thing you really want to do is have to figure out what that configuration looks like. And that's also part of the reason why we're going through this process, is making sure that we have something that's stable, that delivers the performance, and that's easy for the customer to experience. So that's it, and I have plenty of time, it looks like, so I think we should do a Q&A session on this. Brian, you want to grab the mic? Yeah. So while he's doing that, I would just say that this PowerFlex product, great performance. There's some slides, and by the way, I should say this is, I went through this at a high level, and I'm a generalist, and this is, we have at the booth an opportunity to deep dive into any one of these 3 products. We have experts that are here at the show. We can take meetings as well. So I would strongly recommend swing by the booth, schedule meetings, and go deeper on all these topics. There were a ton of slides that we had that I didn't show just because I thought 34 slides might be a little overkill. But the resiliency, the performance of PowerFlex is a big deal. And then with data protection, obviously, we're already trusted. We're already in the marketplace. We're protecting a ton of data. And the work that we're doing right now with developers as well with the developer platforms is huge. All right, well, I want to thank everyone here for joining the session then. Really appreciate it.